So,
So we
Elizabeth
broke the
Warren,
news.
give me a sense of, I have read two different things. One is, this could really happen. The other is, this will never happen in terms of her being VP. Give me a sense not just of whether or not you think it's going to happen, but just, is this something that she wants? Do you have a sense of it? Is this something that she wants? How could it work? What would
Right.
be the value to those who are of our ilk ideologically and want her to be the most effective
Right.
Elizabeth Warren she can be?
I mean, my sense is that Senator Warren would be very happy to continue in the Senate, particularly if Democrats win back the majority. And there's probably files in her office of a host of bills and hearings and things that she has wanted to do for the last 2 years, at least, when they haven't been in the majority, that she could get back to. And I think that she would be happy to join with a renewed progressive wing of the party, with Sanders obviously having newfound popularity
Right.
and
And power.
exposure and power. And then, you bring in Sherrod Brown as ranking member or the chairman probably of the Senate Banking Committee.
That's crazy.
You bring in Russ Feingold if he comes back in, who was similar to Warren on many of these issues. That's a place you can draw from. And I think she would be very happy to expand and control this power base in the Senate. At the same time, I think that part of the kind of trajectory of Ryan Grimm's reporting on this, which
Ryan
has
Grimm
been
from the
among
Huffington Post, yeah.
the best, is that Warren has been discounted kind of at every step of the way on where she has gone through Washington on the basis of she would be outflanked, whether it was when she was actually an assistant to the president in the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, she was sort of standing it up,
Right.
or whether she became a senator, a junior senator from Massachusetts, or in this case, and seemingly at every step, she has been able to make something out of what seemed like nothing. Even that little congressional oversight panel that she did in 2009 that was overseeing TARP, she turned that, which could have been just absolutely nothing, it's something that files a report that sits on the shelf, into a really vibrant counterweight to what was going on at Treasury with Geithner. So, that's just another example. And she was able to make and draw power from these places that weren't necessarily at first glance the thing you would think she would be able to do. So similarly, in the vice presidency, she could be able to build power in that office in a way we might not have seen before, and that it might not even be readily apparent during the administration or while she's doing it, because it may be very behind the scenes.
How would that work? I mean,
my sense is she's a very skilled behind the scenes operator. That there are things that will happen and that have already happened where publicly you're not quite sure that she impacted the debate, but she really did. And the one that I think by now is pretty much out there is the Larry Summers issue.
Right.
When he was seemingly going to become the Federal Reserve chairman. Warren never made a public statement on that. And yet it was her maneuvering behind the scenes, and I think this has been documented, that it was her maneuvering behind the scenes that really brought down that nomination. And she was more public with Antonia Weiss and brought down that nomination. So there are more things beyond just personnel that she has done to ensure that some better policies and outcomes came forward from the executive branch. It is true that a lot of the things that she has been focused on has been at the executive branch level, whether it's personnel or whether it's implementation of policies at the various agencies. The Labor Department's Fiduciary Rule, this has been a major focus of hers. That is not legislative. That is an executive branch agency implementing a rule?
The fiduciary rule is that financial advisors actually have a responsibility to give you
Good advice.
good financial advice. Not even good financial
Just
advice.
to operate
just
in
to
your
operate
interest.
in your interest,
Yeah,
so that they actually think that what they're giving you is good advice. Like,
Right.
it's not even saying like you have to be good at it. It's that you actually have to just be honest.
Yes. Yes.
In other words, communism.
And Warren was very involved in that. So, there are these, it makes some sense that you would want her to be in the executive branch. I mean, if her entire impetus in this election cycle is that personnel is policy and who is in the room making those decisions really matters, well, the number one person I would want in that room is Elizabeth Warren. And
Right.
so, even though that might not play out sort of publicly, I think it would tend to make a difference.
Like it's one of those things that you'd read like at the year
You'd
8,
read- you'd
year
read in the
7,
memoirs
right?
of
Year
somebody,
7,
yeah.
as people start to leave the
Right.
administration, like Elizabeth Warren, she was the one who
The Ron
was the
Suskind narrative.
That's interesting. Now, from Clinton's perspective, I mean, why would you? The only reason why you would do that, it seems to me, right, is to sort of bring someone with that strength of personality, but just someone who is, because I think, at least in the past 20 years, it's hard to think of someone who has been this sort of singularly successful in different areas, going from the executive branch to the legislative branch and operating almost, not missing a beat. And this is someone who went from just being I don't mean just, but a professor. Now, there's a lot of, internal politics at a school, at any higher education institution. I imagine Harvard's quite high. But she's extremely adept at this in a way that I think is, I don't know if it's unprecedented, but it's certainly like she's on some top 10 lists, I think. And if you're Hillary Clinton, the calculation's got to be like, do I want what she's doing to happen under the auspices of my administration, or do I want what she's doing to come at the cost of my administration?
Well,
right?
I think there's a few ways you can look at it. The short-term political issue is she's got something that I want to grab and glom onto. And in a time when the party might be a little bit fractured between its progressive and more, dominant kind of mainstream wings, I need her to step in here. So that's like a short-term, kind of just get me through the election kind of issue.
Right.
Longer term, I'm sure Chuck Schumer isn't too unhappy with taking Elizabeth Warren out of the Senate for his own devices and purposes. And Hillary might be thinking along those lines as well. I mean, she might be just, what's the Lyndon Johnson quote? You'd rather have someone on the inside of the tent pissing out instead of outside pissing in.
Right.
That could be a calculation here. Clinton is a skilled bureaucratic operator in her own right and might think, okay, she can try to do these things, but I would be the president and she would be the vice president. And, I think I can win those battles. So, there's a lot going on here, and there's a lot of Kremlinology that I think we're engaged in here, like trying to read signals and things like that.
I think that's that part about it is fascinating. Particularly because I just remember there was so much dissension about Warren going into the Senate, where people are just like, she's totally defanging herself.
Right.
She's totally she's going to go into a body. She's going to go into the minority. It's a body that's already paralyzed. She's not going to be able to do anything. And she's had real impact on, it seems to me, on
the public debate.
On the public debate,
Yeah.
and on some very specific and personnel, like you say.
Personnel and policy, but yeah.
All right. So, hello, you. I'm Sam Seder. Looking for smart progressive talk that is occasionally amusing? Well, subscribe to our YouTube feed. Subscribe to our podcast. Like us on Facebook. And just generally enjoy us.